Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a Rune and Tarot divination for Thursday, the 20th day of January 2022. Well, our grandson is a week old today. Yay! We got a picture yesterday sent to us. Oh my goodness. And our youngest, or no longer youngest grandson, the middle one now, we got one of him holding him, a couple of them with him holding him. And oh my God. It just makes this grandma's heart just swell, doesn't it? Anyway, we have a 2 energy for today. 20 reduces to 2. So love, balance, decisions, and healing. I wrote stuff down here. Let's see. The sun's in Aquarius. The moon is no longer in Leo. It shifted to Virgo at 6:02 in the morning, my time here on the Pacific Coast, the West Coast. Let's see. Jupiter governs magic today, so social justice, healing, abundance, achieving goals and desires. Jupiter expands, and right now it's not in retrograde, so it's going to be externally expansive. So anything for growth, healing, all of that can help manifest more of that in your life. The favorability of working magic today is very good, and so have at it. Let me move my keyboard out of the way here. Let me get a rune here for the as above part of the as above, so below. Let's see. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm still exhausted from taking care of the grandkids, so bear with me. I promise I won't nod off, though. We have Fehu, the first rune of the Elder Futhark. Now, Fehu basically means cattle or wealth, but the reason why they link the two together is back in the day when runes were used as a method of not only divination, but also a language. The way that worked is that cattle... essentially, when you had cattle, it was wealth that was movable, and so you could barter with it. If you moved the tribe moved to another area, maybe it was a seasonal thing or something, then everything got to go with you, and so it became currency basically. It's also about life force. It's about it is considered the sending rune in magic, so you could, as you're casting your intention, chant Fehu, and that would help send that energy wherever you want it to go. But again, it's a transactional type of an experience with Fehu. So higher self coming in perhaps and influencing things today. Our transactions with others, and you can think of that as your interactions, your exchanges with other people. Runes are a language of spirit, and so consequently, at least in my estimation, they are. Let's see, looks like we've got Fortuna Minor for the, or no, I take that back. We've got Amicio for our Geomancy rune. Let's get that out of the bowl here, and I'll show you what that is. But basically, if you're dealing with it as a language of spirit, then basically it's helping you to understand how you can draw that energy from spirit to then invoke it into your experiences and form, rather than allowing ego to control the narrative. And I think we know what happens when ego does and when spirit does. There's a difference, isn't there? Here we have Amicio or loss. So we could be increasing now. Now loss can be, you can attach a value judgment to it. So if opposite is, or complement is acquisitio, so that's gain, you could think of it in terms of finances or security or something like that. But it can also simply mean the decrease of something or the increase of something. So in this case with the missio, you could think of it as the decrease of, it could be anything in terms of transaction with Fehu. You could have a decrease in issues with transacting with other people, with engaging with other people. So it could either mean that there's a problem with it or an end of a problem, right? So you have to just decide on how that's going to apply to your life. It's versatile, so you could have 3 or 4 different people here, and it could apply individually to each one. and not really apply to any of the others, right? So that's what's nice about the geomancy runes. Sometimes they just indicate an increase or a decrease of something. So anyhow, so there's going to be some kind of a decrease with respect to wealth or transaction with others. Again, maybe if you've had issues engaging with other people, maybe some of that's going to go away today, and the energy of the rune itself will come into true fulfillment for Fehu. Be no barriers to it, in other words. Well, I'm still dealing with the new deck, and it's still shiny, and I started to shuffle on the table here, and they just went everywhere. Because the backs of them are so, well, the front is too, but the backs are so slick that I don't know. That's my only gripe about new decks. But I really like this deck. I like the it's called the Magic Seer deck. And the reason I got it is because there's no border like the Rider-Waite, the traditional Rider-Waite has. There's no border around it, you know. So you have the card like the Morgan Greer does, it goes clear to the edge, and I like that. So, and I just like some of the background colors a little bit better. The pictures, though, the drawings are exactly the same as a Rider-Waite, though. So that was the other reason I got it. It's like, well, that would be good for the as above, so below readings. So anyway, new deck, very slippery. And, you know, it is what it is in terms of my dexterity. Let's go ahead and take the first three cards. Well, we have one from the Major Arcana, one from the Suit of Swords, and one from the Suit of Pentacles. And that particular one is a court card. It's going to be a knight. So I think that I'm going to move the Hanged Man to the center because I see a particular flow here that I like. Let's start with the Eight of Swords. We see a woman blindfolded and bound. You see swords around her. Now, swords is the air element, so that's talking about the intellect, reason, justice, fairness, perception, all of that, truth. You see this cliff up here where the castle sits on top of the cliff. So you've got higher ground up here. You see, realistically, you see, you know, kind of the wet, soppy sand below her. She's in a red gown, orangish red gown. But she's choosing to be blindfolded and bound. And realistically, I tend to interpret this as being bound by your perceptions. And with the Eight, you're looking at the various things associated with the Eight. You can look at it in terms of strength or material recognition or achievement, leadership. But I think here she has the strength to go within, to turn off the noise, to turn off her perceptions, to simply go within and figure things out. She could also externally, now this is more of an inner look, sort of an inner focus of this particular interpretation. If you look at it externally, then she could be surrounded by a bunch of noise and a bunch of deception, and she just has to turn it all off to try to figure out what's really true. So there's a couple ways of looking at this without knowing what the rest of the cards are. We're going to look at it either one of those two ways. I tend to look at it, though, as having the strength to go within, turn off the noise, and figure out what the truth is, because you've been bound by your own perceptions, and maybe, you know, I don't know about that. And so, and particularly with the Hangman coming next, this is the 12th card of the Major Arcana. So it's a 3 energy. So mind, body, spirit, balance. Here we have the Hanged Man hanging upside down. Sometimes this card is presented as Odin hanging upside down from the world tree to gain enlightenment. You see here, spirit is he's surrendering basically to spirit, hanging on by one leg. Triplicities here. There's one there. There's one here. There's one here. But basically, this is surrender to spirit, surrender to higher awareness, and let that inform your perceptions here in physical reality. So that's why I say hook these two together. Do it this way. Hook them together, and what you have is, I'm bound by my perceptions. I've got way too much coming in on me. I've got to shut down and just think for myself. It's reinforced by the Hanged Man, where we surrender to spirit instead of the ego's perception. I was writing something for next week, and I referenced it was for the Patreon page, and I on that one, when I do the correspondences for the week, I was doing them daily, but when I do it for the whole week, for the Patreon page, I put in recommendations for the type of magical working you can do on that given day. Whether it's meditative, or some of it depends on what the favorability for working magic is on any particular day. But when it's very bad, like it's going to be next week for several days, it's just best to work on an inner ritual, or a ritual that deals with inner stuff, or a trance working or meditation or whatever. And I referenced that for part of it you can have a focus. And maybe if I mentioned Rumi, maybe a quote from Rumi, or some Buddhist philosophy, also from Course in Miracles. The premise of Course in Miracles itself is nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God, or the Creator, or all that is. And I really think that it's really about perception, and we create the world we see basically by our perceptions. And so either that's going to be spirit-based, or it's going to be ego-based. And to me, that's what Course in Miracles is really all about. I finally did the whole thing. It took me 30 years to do it. But I'd get like halfway through and I'd stop. I'd get busy and I'd stop. And so finally I did the whole thing a few years ago, and including the workbook, which is really interesting because it actually helps you shift your mindset in a way that's non-judgmental. I give everything the meaning it has, everything I see the meaning that it has. You start to learn that things are not so carved in stone like the ego would like you to believe. And so I think that this kind of reminds me of, I was writing that, was it last night? I was writing it, and it kind of reminds me of this, that we're going to give everything the meaning that we give it, right? Everything we see and experience, we're going to decide what that means. Well, what if it's too subjective? What if it's based on ego? Which part of the self is defining that, in other words? And with the reading, it's just suggesting that we let go of some of that and turn our attention inward. And then it's further reinforced by the Hanged Man, where we're able to then surrender to spirit and have spirit inform our perceptions instead of the ego defining everything, and everything being very reactive, instead of creating from spirit. And realistically, for the most part, what that means is you stand back and you observe. And you try to see both sides of the equation. You try to see all sides of everything, and to understand the more holistic, not holistic, but WHO, holistic type of an experience. The Kabbalion talks about, and one of the principles, I did a thing called cause and effect. I mentioned that last Monday on the blog over there at Stepping Aside, where we're looking at the cause and effect of things. You have to look at both sides of the equation, both sides of the same coin, basically. All of our experiences are drawn down to that idea, really. And so it's not about either or, it's about looking at the whole situation. And when you end up feeling like this, it's because you've become stuck in perception, and there's too much coming in. If this is an internal kind of thing. If not, then you've got a whole lot of stuff coming in on you from other people trying to convince you of something that may or may not be true. Again, their own agendas coming in. That's the other side of this, right? The internal versus the external. But when you get all of that established for yourself, you see, you have a higher level of security. for yourself and for others. Here you see and I love this one. I love this knight probably better than all of them. Knights are on a quest. They're not the page or the princess or whatever, whichever deck you're using, whatever they call the page. The page is a student, and so that's undeveloped potential. This is the next level in your lifetime. So this is a little bit old. This is a person who's a little bit older than the student. They've already gone through that, and now they're out on their quest. They're making their way, and the knights are doing it either on behalf of the king or on behalf of the kingdom. There's a protective aspect to the knight. And here we see, and I love his horse. It's just a very strong looking horse. You see his visor is open. His visor on his helmet is open, so he's not in battle. He's just sitting there holding out a coin, so he's offering security. I mean, it could be that he's going around and collecting the taxes from all of the little villages and all of that on behalf of the king, but I don't think so. I think that this is an offering of security. So once you surrender to spirit, you possess a level of inner security that you can then offer to other people. And I think that there's a higher level here because it looks like he's up above everybody. Like he's up on a hill, maybe looking down at the town or looking down at the village. And I think that this basically, Amicio then would probably sit above the Eight of Swords, where we're going to lose and let go of perceptions that no longer serve us, that are either imposed upon us or ones that we've created ourselves. We then align in spirit and surrender to spirit and let spirit inform our experiences here. Because after all, that's what we are. We're souls, infused into these physical forms for whatever time we're here. And then, we're probably other places as well, and then we have this continual reincarnation process wherever we are, where the soul does what it does then, and then another piece of your oversoul maybe comes in somewhere else, and while you have a little bit of a timeout maybe, or maybe you come right back in. It just depends on the individual soul in question. But I think that how we interact with others in terms of our perceptions, how much judgment are we going to express to other people? Or are we going to stand back and observe like the hanged man would suggest? And to try to see the bigger picture and not get caught up in the drama, not get caught up in the deception that we either impose on ourselves, the self-deception, or deception from outside influences. Either way can be issues that we have to deal with, and they're ego-based. They're not spirit-based, okay? And so what informs the soul's journey? Is it going to be everything we see around us and that we react to? Because if we do that, that's the personality or ego doing that. If we are able to stand back and see the broader message and maybe not involve ourselves directly, maybe, because just because something exists doesn't mean we need to express an opinion about it, right? We can acknowledge it without doing that, without really committing or getting involved. Unless it's something that we really need to commit to and get involved with. Instead, this day and age, everybody's filming, everybody's doing, everybody's writing, everybody's on social media, everybody's giving an opinion. And although it's fun to do that, sometimes if it's reactive, in other words, if you really don't have the whole story, why would you give an opinion about it until you do? It's that sort of thing. But how we transact with others, are we going to do it from the standpoint of our own agenda or someone else's agenda, or are we going to do it from the standpoint of spirit so we can see the entire picture and understand the wholeness of it? And then we can then offer security to other people. This would be, excuse me, the card that's going to be the transaction card, or the Fehu card. Okay, and remember, Fehu is about cattle and wealth. Well, it's also about security. and how we transact with others. Are we going to do it in a way that's selfish? Are we going to do it in a way that uses them instead of, contributes positively to their lives? How are we going to do that? And depending on where you set your perceptions up, whether it's in ego or whether it's in spirit, you may have a very different outcome. So I think realistically we have to take a look at whatever this is overall. I think we need to take a look about how we're bound by perception, either our own or imposed by others. Are we able to go within and meditate and release all of that, release all expectations, release all perceptions, so that we can then allow spirit to guide our hand, guide our interactions, guide our choices? Are we going to be able to do that? And if so, what kind of an effect does that have on our ability to interact with other people and the expectations we have of them? How do we then transact our lives with others, essentially? Is it all about what's in it for me, or is it about the collective? I mean, sometimes it is about what's in it for me. But at the same time, we also have to understand that we're not the only people involved, that there are other people impacted as well, and we have to ask what's in it for all of us. How do we benefit our growth and our learning? Are we going to learn from experiences that are catalyzing in perhaps a hostile or negative way? Can we simply learn from that? Or do we have to get down in the muck of it and be part of something like that? And the answer, in my view, is no. You can learn by watching and seeing what it is, and understanding the whole picture, the cause and effect of all of it, and understand the whole thing. It's not that you have to get down in the weeds with everybody, unless, of course, you're harvesting them for tea, and then that's fine. You can get in the weeds like I do. My best teas are my yard teas, when I just grab a bowl and I head outside. And I see dandelion, I see plantain, I see cleavers or chickweed, or, whatever I'm looking at, and I'm grabbing this and that, and then I take it in and I make the tea for the day. So I call it yard tea. So if you want to get down in the weeds, do that for that. But other than that, no. try to just stand back and become the hanged man, and get as much information as you can from spirit, so that you have some kind of a non-judgmental way of assessing what's going on. And then from there, you may be able to interact in a better way with others. So that's all I got. I don't think we need to rehash this any further. I don't think we need any other cards either. I think that we're fine with what we've got. So I guess that's it. Everything's back on schedule now with the grandbaby being born. I don't have to worry about getting a phone call in the middle of the night and not having everything ready that's already out. So I kind of have gone ahead and I've been scheduling things instead of waiting to schedule them on the day of. I've been going ahead and scheduling what I can. I don't think Medium allows me to do that, and so I have to still post until I figure out where am I. I thought that you could schedule stuff there, but maybe you can't. I don't know. Anyway, that's the only one, that and the newsletter, where I have to actually physically send it out at the time I want to do that. But that's all ready to go too. The newsletter is. If you want to sign up for that, you get the esoteric influences in your inbox, usually Saturday night. And then, although I had been the last couple of weeks, I was sending out sooner. But you'll get them in your inbox, and then whatever else I have in there. I put this next week's has the strong aspects, astrological aspects, for the different planets in that as well. I put that in there too, in addition to the esoteric influences. If you don't want to sign up for it, that's fine. It's free. It's just something if you want to have this stuff in your inbox. Sometimes I'll put, advertisements for the classes at Herbal Academy on there. Other than that, and then my books, links to the books I've written are in it. Other than that, there's a calendar, and there's also a monthly calendar, and then there's also a list of the Sabbats that pagans and witches observe. So anyhow, that's all in there just for reference. And to do that, you can sign up over on the left side panel of the blog at imsteppingaside.com. Just scroll down a little bit and it'll say sign up for newsletter. You just put your email in and hit send, and then that goes to my newsletter software people, and then I just do it and hit send. I don't know. If you want it. If you don't, that's fine too. But it's there if you want to see that. So anyhow, I guess that's it. Look for stuff to come up on the blog, the stuff to come up over on Patreon. You can follow me over there. Again, I also do stuff on Medium. So look for that stuff. Links are below the video here to wherever I am. Mostly I hang out on Twitter, so that's where you'll find me most of the time. Although I do post stuff on Stepping Aside's Facebook page and also on my own. But other than that, if you want to talk to me on social media, the best place to do that is on Twitter. So, or to do something, or to comment under the video, and I'll answer you. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, you guys. And if you haven't clicked subscribe, I hope you'll do that. I'd love you to do that and come back again. I do this on Mondays and Thursdays for As Above, So Below. And then in anything else I want to do, I do the rest of the time. Sometimes I do stuff in something I call Foundations in Magic. We talk about different things, divination stuff, all kinds of stuff, concepts that are involved there. You can check out that playlist, and you'll find them listed there if you just want to go back and look at stuff I've done before. Sometimes I do herbal stuff, both on the blog and on video, so look for that as well. But other than that, I guess that's it. Have a good rest of the week. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday. So be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.